a simple Tinder pouch or foraging pouch or whatever you want to use it for. Let me show you how I make one. Right, I'm just starting with an old scrap bit of leather I've got left over. Just draw a circle on it, quite simply. For a standard size pouch, I normally go about 12 inches roughly, 30 centimetres. What I use as a guide is actually the wok out of my kitchen. I draw around that. This piece of scrap wasn't quite big enough to do that for the video, so I've just drawn around one of the plates instead. And what were we? Yeah, about 10.5 inches this one. So it'll come up slightly smaller. It does make quite a difference on the sizing. This will come a fair bit smaller, just going down from 12 inches to 10.5. When I make the sort of XL size ones, they're only about 15 inch across. So not massively bigger, but it does make a much bigger pouch. But this will do for demonstration purposes. Right, I'll cut that out. Right, well, I could have chosen a better colour for the demonstration, couldn't I really? But this is the leather that I have at the moment. I don't really get a lot of choice in it because it's just recycled stuff from work. If I ever pick up an old 3-piece suite, a leather one, when we're delivering new ones, customers often ask us to get rid of the rubbish. And if it's something with decent leather, I'll just cut the leather off it. But yeah, this is the colour I have it in stock at the moment. Now, over onto the underside there. What I need to do is put some lines on here. And that is just to mark out where I'm going to punch the holes out for gathering it up. Now, it doesn't have to be over precise with this. It really doesn't. It doesn't really show. So I do it in quite a simple method. I'll just fold it in half like that, and then with my pen just sort of roughly mark where the fold is, and I get my ruler. Let's roughly line that up with the marks there. First line. Now I'm just going to put one line to the other, so we're roughly square. As I say, it doesn't really matter too much. And I'm going to do the same again. Can't quite see that. Hang on. Bit of adjustment. Yeah, that'll do. Right, first 2 lines, and from here onwards, I'm basically just going to keep halving these gaps. I say it doesn't need to be precise, so at this point you can guess. So roughly half, roughly half, roughly half, roughly half. Join them ones up. You'll see if you're fairly closely guesses, because all the lines will cross roughly in the centre. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. I basically need to halve them again because I want 16 rivet hole points. I've tried more, I've tried less. 16 seems to work the best for me, regardless of the size of the pouch. So I'll just go around marking these again halfway through each segment. Right, once that's all done, I'll bring you back at the next stage. Right, there's all my lines done. So I've got 16 points where I'm going to make the hole, roughly. Now, time for this little kiddie. You can find these pretty cheap on eBay. It's a combination tool. The bottom bit here is the hole punch. When you give it a squeeze, that little piston comes down and it punches out the bottom. And this is the bit that squishes the rivets in. And I'm just going to go on the line and just punch the holes out. Again, this doesn't have to be over precise. It doesn't matter if you're not spot on the line. And in fact, as you go round, you might see somewhere, you know, this segment is much bigger than this segment. So, you know, just halve it with your eye. It doesn't really matter. And there you go, just carry on round, punching them out. And then you can start with your rivets. Right, there's my 16 holes punched out. Not too close to the edge. How close have I gone? 3/4 of an inch, about 2 centimeters, something like that. Don't want to go too near the edge because it, you know, it'll make it weak and there's the chance that it could tear out. So leave a little bit on the edge there for a bit of strength. Now comes the fun part, or at least it is for me, because I've got some nerve damage in my hands, and this is quite fiddly. They're only tiny, these little brass rivets that I use. I use brass ones purely because obviously outdoor environment, you don't want to go in rusty. But they are tiny, and because of how my hands are, I can't really feel them. So I really need to sort of do this by eye. There's two ways you could do it. You can either balance the rivet on there, pass him through the hole, give him a squeeze, or you can poke the rivet through the hole first, and then do it. Doesn't matter. You still achieve the same, just squashing the edges over so it grips on there. Right. I'll work my way around, stick the rivets in. I won't film that bit because I'll probably drop it a few times and there'll be some swearing involved. But yep, let's work my way around and I'll stick them in next. That's all the little brass eyelets fitted. Now you don't have to do that stage. You can literally just make the holes if you want, just holes in the leather. But I found, depending on how thick your leather is, the stuff I use is quite thin. It's quite soft, which is, you know, what I like. It wouldn't take too long for the holes to get enlarged and maybe tear out. So I find putting the little brass rivets or eyelets in just gives it that little bit of extra strength. My one that I use an awful lot is my fire lighting kit when I'm camping. I probably made that 2-3 years ago, maybe something like that, I can't remember. And it's still as good as the day I made it. So I think it's worth doing that if you're going to go to the effort. But say, you don't have to, it's entirely up to you. Now the next things to do, I need to thread it with some sort of cord. Now, personally, I use a bootlace or a shoelace. Couple of reasons. They're dirt cheap, get them anywhere, and because they've got the little sealed piece on the end of the lace, makes it really easy to thread them. I've done it with paracord in the past. That works okay, but sometimes the paracord can be a bit of a bugger to thread because the ends get a bit fluffed up where you keep passing it through the hole. This having the little sealed caps on there is a lot easier. I've also done it with leather. I actually got some leather bootlaces, but it didn't really run very well with them being, you know, I just couldn't get the right size leather bootlace to fit the size grommets I had, etc., etc. I just keep going back to using the ordinary bootlace. Ordinary bootlace is cheap and it works fine. The other thing, I've got another scrap bit of leather and just punched with 2 holes, which you'll see in a minute when I put that together, the reason I've done that. And I've got one of these plastic, like spring loaded clips that grab onto the string or whatever you put through there. There's lots of different things you could use for a tensioner, but I just find these are cheap, easy to get hold of, and quite simply they just work. So let's stick it together. Obviously pretty simple, literally thread through and just keep going in and out till you've gone all the way round. Right, that's gone right round him, in and out, in and out. And as you can see, it's started to sort of gather itself already when you pull it up like that. After a while, it will take the shape sort of naturally. But I mean, it was a flat piece of leather. It's not used to being pulled into that shape, so it'll take a little while. But the more you use them, the more they soften up. Now, where we've finished here, where I've got the 2 ends, this is where this piece will come in. I'm just going to stick that on there, like that, because this is the bit obviously where you're tensioning it constantly. I don't know, I can't prove it, but I think it's this area, these 2 eyelets here, that are probably going to be under the most stress and wear and whatever. So just a little bit of belt and braces really. Whether it makes any difference, I don't know, but I've just always done it. And then just put the little spring doodah on there. That's one. Depending what type you use, it can be a bit of a fiddle, but again, it's the advantage of having the bootlaces with a little cap on the end. Pull that through. And there he is, done, really. Pull him up, make him into a funny shape there. It needs something in it to, make it sort of form its shape properly. But the more you use it, the more the leather will get used to being that shape, and it will soften up and it'll form its own, natural creases. But even though I've done this one a bit smaller than normal, it's still a decent size. You can still get stuff in there okay. Drop me tape measure in for scale. There you go. Oh, I'll find a use for that, no doubt. But yeah, that's really how simple it is. If you can get hold of the leather is quite expensive to buy online. I did have a look at buying scrap leather through, eBay and that sort of thing, and people want stupid money for it. They really do. That's why I went the route of recycling my stuff I pick up at work. So it could be an idea, if you wanted some on the cheap, maybe go to your local charity shop that does furniture and stuff like that, and if you can find a cheap chair that happens to be leather covered, and buy it just for nicking the leather off, that you could do that. A cheap old leather jacket from a charity shop, maybe. Anything like that. You just got to think outside the box sometimes. But yeah, the leather cost me nothing from work. The only money involved is obviously buying the brass rivets, buying the bootlace, the little clip, and the initial investment of buying the tool. But I think, these are like 10 or 15 pounds and normally come with a few hundred eyelets to start you off. So it's not the end of the world if you're going to do a fair bit of it. There we go. That's how I make a Tinder or foraging pouch. I hope you enjoyed it.